All right, let's start with a big question. What if we could totally redesign the engine of human progress? I mean, really shake it up. Today, we're diving into a pretty radical new take on scientific research, one that uses Web3 tech to make discovery faster, fairer, and way more open than it's ever been. So let's get into it. So, to really get why this change is so needed, we first have to talk about this huge problem in science. It's like this giant chasm where brilliant ideas just go to die. It's got a name, and it's pretty fitting, the Valley of Death. And this is what that valley looks like in numbers. Get this, a staggering 80 to 90%, 80 to 90 of all research projects fail before they even get to human trials. Just let that sink in for a second. For every 10 potential breakthroughs, 9 of them just vanish. So yeah, that gap is what scientists call the Valley of Death. It's that frustrating point where, some basic research shows real promise, but it just can't get the funding or the support to become something real, like a new medicine or a new piece of tech. The ideas are great, but the system for actually building on them, it's broken. Okay, so what's causing this massive failure rate? What's the root of the problem? Well, let's look at the very structure of how science has been done for ever. The problem is a system built around these powerful gatekeepers who basically control all the money and all the access. Let's break it down, right? The problems are baked into the system. You've got funding that's super slow and just doesn't like taking risks. It usually just goes to the big, established names. This has a name, actually. It's called the Matthew effect. It's this idea that people who are already successful just keep getting more resources. In science, that means the rich get richer and brand new ideas kind of get left out in the cold. And on top of that, collaboration is a mess, and peer review can be super biased because it's all controlled by this tiny centralized group. It's a system that, without even trying, ends up punishing real innovation. But what if there was another way? A whole new model designed to just go around the gatekeepers and build a bridge across that valley of death. This is exactly where Decentralized Science, or DeSci, enters the picture. So what is DeSci? Well, it's a movement that uses Web3 tech, things like blockchains, which are basically super secure public record books, and DAOs, which you can think of as online communities with a shared bank account, to build a whole new scientific ecosystem. The main idea is actually really simple. Take the power away from those central gatekeepers and give it to a global community. And this is where it gets really cool. Check out this comparison. DeSci directly tackles every single one of the problems we just talked about. So instead of slow, centralized grants, you have these DAOs that can fund projects from a global pool of people super fast. Instead of everyone working in their own little competitive silos, you get shared ownership and incentives that actually line up. And those super complicated intellectual property rights, they become transparent, tradable things on the blockchain. I mean, it is a complete 180-degree shift. Right, so the key thing to get here is that this isn't just some philosophical idea. It's a technological one. DeSci is handing us a brand new toolkit that literally rewrites the rules of how we do science. And we're going to focus on 3 of the most powerful tools in this kit. DAOs for funding and running things, AI for completely reinventing peer review, and this wild new concept called IP-NFTs for changing how we think about owning discoveries. All right, let's start with maybe one of the most mind-bending applications, using AI to fix the built-in bias of peer review. There's this research paper that proposes a system to do exactly that, and it's called Bit-Politeia. The core idea here is just brilliant. Okay, so every human researcher, they call them residents, gets an AI agent to interact with the community for them. And this agent is designed to be totally impartial. The paper calls it an AI superego, which is perfect. It's like a rational proxy that filters out all the human stuff, the personal biases, the conflicts of interest, and just focuses on the science. Is the work good? That's all that matters. Now, I know this diagram looks a little complicated, but it shows off a really clever structure. Just imagine all these AI agents are organized into small teams. Then, those teams are grouped into bigger divisions, and so on all the way up this 10-level hierarchy. This clustered grouping is the secret sauce. It stops any one group from getting too powerful, but it's still efficient enough to get things done. It's all about balancing that democratic fairness with the speed you need for real science. So how do these AI agents actually make decisions? Well, they use 2 different modes. First, there's casual chat, which is basically for building trust and figuring out who's an expert in what. And then there's deliberative interaction, which is the formal, buttoned-down process for actually evaluating proposals, voting, and making the final calls.
And here is the final crucial piece of the puzzle. Every single interaction, every vote, every bit of feedback, and every agent's reputation score is permanently recorded on the blockchain. It can't be changed. It can't be deleted. This creates a permanent, tamper-proof, and totally transparent record of the entire scientific process. No more closed doors.
Okay, so we've seen how DeSci can totally reboot peer review. Now let's look at another huge area it's shaking up: intellectual property. The patents, the discoveries, often the most valuable part of science.
It does this through something called IP tokenization. Here's how it works. Step 1, a researcher's IP, let's say a patent, gets legally tied to an NFT. Simple enough? Step 2, that IP-NFT is then broken up into tiny tradable tokens. Now for the magic. Step 3, anyone, other scientists, patients, investors like you and me, can buy these tokens. This money funds the research, and everyone gets a little piece of the ownership. And finally, step 4, these tokens can be bought and sold on marketplaces, which creates a liquid market for an asset that until now has been totally locked up and hard to put a price on.
And hey, this isn't just some pie-in-the-sky theory. It is happening right now. You've got companies like Molecule who are pioneering this whole IP-NFT thing to fund biotech. Even a giant like IBM is partnering with a company called IPWe to tokenize patents. And then there are platforms like Axon helping video game developers do the same thing with their IP. This is literally the future of intellectual property unfolding before our eyes. So when you put all these pieces together, these new ways of funding, these unbiased review systems, this liquid IP, what does the future of science actually start to look like? Well, it looks like a brand new ecosystem for innovation. It's one that is no longer being held back by those slow, old-school gatekeepers. It's faster because funding can happen in days, not years. It's fairer because the best ideas can actually win, no matter where they come from. And it's all funded by a global community that has a real shared stake in seeing breakthroughs happen.
And that leaves us with a pretty wild final thought. For centuries, science has belonged to these exclusive institutions, right? But as this tech grows up, we really have to ask ourselves, will the next great breakthrough, the next penicillin, the next moonshot, the next cure for a devastating disease, be funded and verified, not by some university or corporation, but by a global community of strangers and their AI assistants? The answer to that, well, it could change absolutely everything.